Getting engaged is like getting is the first hill of the roller coaster, and you hear those clicking, the loud sound. It's really violent metal chunk, and you go, what's going on here? You know, boy, this thing really goes high. And then you go over the top. The wedding is at the top. You go over the top is the wedding, and then you just scream.
Well, even if you make plans, you never think you're really ready for marriage.
No, it's like any growth. You can't be ready for it because it's growth. It's going to be new. It's going to be new. You're going to have a new life. You're going to be a new person.
Hello, humans of the world. Welcome to another episode of ReLAYshons. I'm excited. This is episode 5. You know what they say about 5, right? I don't know. I just thought I should say that. The title of this episode is called Matrimony. And the skit that you just heard is from the Wale song Matrimony. It's a pretty dope song. You guys should listen to it. And the premise of this episode is called Taking the Leap. And I'm here with another VIP guest. This is my brother from another mother, Andrew, Lil'Drew, aka. He's basically my adopted brother. I've known Drew for, like 8 years. And we met through a mutual friends who we're still really cool friends with now. And I don't know, we just clicked instantly. He became like my brother, and you know, I didn't even know him for as long as it feels like I know him. I feel like I've known him since I was a teenager as well, like all the rest of my tribe. And we just clicked. He's just dope, and I can't wait for him to talk about this amazing transition he's into right now, or in the process of. And let's take it away. Say hello to the people, Andrew.
What up? It's Drew.
I have a lot of Andrews in my life. So this is Lil'Drew. The other one was the Big Drew, I guess. I don't know. How did we come with this whole Lil'Drew, Big Drew?
That was our mutual friend.
Oh,
Ed.
He came up with this? Yeah, of course he did. So you were a bachelor, and bachelors like you have a bad reputation of expecting that you will never want to take the big jump over the broom, is what they call it. So talk to me. How did you come up with a decision? Just tell me a little bit more about how you went from being an eligible bachelor and transitioning into being in a relationship and now about to propose. He hasn't proposed yet, by the way, you guys. This is going to be pre-recorded and then released after the proposal.
Yeah, we're about a week away, so
a week away.
My heart's jumping a little bit, but
yep, just like the roller coaster and the prelude.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Exactly. How did I transition? I mean, probably a multitude of things. Just experiences with prior relationships, and learning how to kind of maneuver better in a relationship. After making mistakes, everyone doesn't learn what they're doing wrong until they actually make certain mistakes, and then they try it a different way. Mm-hmm. But as far as a bad reputation, I mean, why we get that, I don't know. I think it is on a case by case basis, because
is it case by case?
Yeah, there's obviously certain people that just want to have fun for a long time, and that's cool.
Aren't all men whores for a long period of time until they quote-unquote find the woman that they want to like commit to?
I mean, like, it could go both ways. It could
be
both ways.
Yeah, women can be whores, so that's true.
I don't know. I mean, me coming as a bachelor, it wasn't necessarily me wanting to just have fun and date 100 different women. It was me trying to understand how to maneuver in a relationship and how to be more selfless and not selfish. And not like, when I say selfish, not in a bad way, like you don't care about people, but just
putting your focus more on on
being cognizant of someone else is there, so it's not always about you. So you got to put in the time to, you know, think about the relationship, the other person, but also, you know, still be about yourself too, because your relationship is only going to be as solid as you are. So if you're not good, then it's probably not going to work. Right. So, you know, I had to get to that place.
Yeah. So what would you say love is to you? If you had to define what love is, what would that be?
Love to me is a multitude of things. You know, I don't want to quote the Bible, but you know, some of that in there is definitely true. You know, it is about being kind. It is about putting the other person first, sometimes in front of your own needs. It's about respect too. It's also about lust. I do believe that some of the lust has to be there.
Yeah.
You know, and just kind of making the other person better and making each other better, actually. Like that's, to me, like you have to really love someone, you know, who you call your partner, and kind of want to be there, help them make them a better person, be the best they could be, and vice versa.
Right, because what's the point of being in a relationship if you both are not making each other better? Right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the evolution of it. Basically, the way I like to think about it is, you have to come into my life and add value that I didn't have without you. You know what I mean? Because it's not really this whole idea of like, you complete me, like the whole thing. I mean, I know it's like a big thing for a lot of people, so if you're listening, don't get offended. But this whole idea of like finding your other half and someone to complete you sounds so crazy to me. Yeah. Because it's like, so you've been walking around all your life empty, like half? Like you've just been walking around like a half a human?
Yeah, like you need someone to make you
complete,
better.
Yeah.
Like, not better, but your happiness depends on another human being.
Yeah, and that's sad to me. Yeah. That's sad. That's like really depressing when I think about it. And when I hear people say that, it just really makes me sad, because I think part of a good, solid, successful partnership is having someone to add value that you already have. Yeah. And not come and add to it. So it's like two whole great people that come together and really make great stuff poppin'. Like, you know, Jay-Z and Beyonce. They were great separately, but then they got together and they got even greater, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Dope. Yeah, that's just my little...
You know, after minor hiccups, but, you know.
I mean, listen, the minor hookups, those things are part of the transition and the learning and the mistakes that we were talking about earlier that you had to make. But I still believe that they were whole individuals, and they were both really successful in their own right, individually. So when they got together, it wasn't about, oh, let me get with this person because they're going to make me more money, or I'm going to be able to survive now, or start breathing better or something. I don't know why people say that, but it's the oddest thing.
No, yeah, your foundation has to be, you know, your own individual foundation has to be solid before, you know, getting to this point of wanting to marry someone. Yeah, because you could jump in and out of relationships, right. But, you know.
Where does that get you?
Nowhere.
Nowhere fast, I'll tell you that. So I was listening yesterday, or I came across one of these videos on YouTube where Steve Harvey, he has like this talk show, and there was a girl in the audience who was like, oh, you know, Steve, I was just about to get married, 5 days, you know, she was like, I think she said 5 days ago or something like that, but her fiance bailed out because he got quote unquote cold feet. And Steve Harvey's like, okay, brace yourself, ladies. I'm going to tell you something that you may not be ready to hear. And basically he kind of broke down this idea that men are not really ready to get married until they're financially stable, or they're able to protect their family, or the family that they want to create. And it doesn't have to do anything about emotions or loving you more or less, kind of like what women think. So what would you say made you confirm to yourself that you were ready?
I mean, I do agree with part of that being true. I mean, just from a male perspective, you know, especially me growing up, traditional household, and it's kind of like the old school, especially Latin way, where it's like the man has to not control, but the man just has to be very strong and have his stuff together, financially. He has to have money saved in the bank in case of emergency. He's got to be the one to pick up the shit when it's not good, and I mean, it's tough, it is tough being a man a little bit in that way, because society, that stigma of society of telling men, no woman's gonna be with you if you don't have X, Y, and Z, and not even in the sense of materialistic stuff, just having your stuff together,
and whatever that means, right?
And whatever that means, because everyone it could be
together
different.
Is different, yeah.
And and I'm pretty sure women feel that way on their end too, with what society says, like you gotta have X, Y, Z. There's no man that's gonna want to
clean and take care of the kids, all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with it somewhat, but I think, both parties, when you're about to get married or just even settling down with someone, you kind of have to evaluate what both of you bring to the table, and kind of not just throw all the burden on one person's back, regardless of whether you're the man or the woman. But I mean, I agree with it. I just said what I said, that statement, but I still feel like I have to have, like, I have to be together.
But more because of you as an individual want to be together, not more because of society's pressure. Or
it's just, it's more, not society. It's probably more from my upbringing. My
your learned behavior.
Yeah, my learned behavior, exactly. My father was a hardworking man. He didn't have this great education, but he worked as a doorman 9 to 5, and then he painted people's apartments. And then my mother was a school teacher. So I mean, it just stuck in my head when I was younger. My dad was like, oh, you're a man, so the man doesn't ask for help. A man doesn't tell his problems to nobody. And part of me still believes that to a certain extent. I have trouble asking for help, but in order for me to get to the state where I was at now, in order to be ready to be married, I kind of had to let go of some of those old behaviors. Those old traditions. What a man is supposed to be in a marriage or a relationship. So
what would you say would be one thing that your fiance to be influenced in you being ready? Like, what was things that you saw in her as far as, attributes that you knew that you needed or required to have the life that you want?
Man, I mean, like I said, she's just so selfless. Like, she, not just with me, I see how she is with other people. Like, she'll do things for other people and give to other people before she has for herself. And I saw her do that with me. Most recently, I was hospitalized and came home and required some more care, and like, she was doing the care. Like, she was like my nurse, like giving me IV every day. And I mean, that's not what made me say, oh, she's worthy of becoming a wife, but it was just kind of like, wow, like, and
when you're down and out, she showed up.
And as a man, I felt a little bit weak, because I'm like, somebody's taking care of me, and this is not what I want. But I was like, all right, Drew, you gotta, put down the macho-ness for a little bit. She's doing it because she cares about you. And, with her, I've never experienced that with any other relationship I've been in. So that more recently was very big, and she's big on family. That was very important, and like I said, just the biggest thing is that she puts herself, on the back burner for other people. Yeah. And I said,
that's a valuable asset.
Yeah, that's a very valuable asset.
And you never had that before, so you highly valued it.
Yeah.
It's dope. So how has it been? I know you're really close to your parents, your father and your mom. How has your relationship with your parents affected now you being in this relationship with someone? Now you guys recently moved in together, now about to be engaged. How would you say your relationship with your parents changed?
I kind of have my ups and downs with that. I have a great relationship with my parents, but just growing up and getting back to the whole, how did I get here? How did I get ready to propose to someone? Like, it took me a long time. And not a long time in the sense of like, oh, you're 30-something years old, you should be married, but just a long time to get to a place of letting go of things that I saw growing up.
What kind of things? Can you give me one example?
Yeah, my parents were together for like 20 years in a marriage, and they're, no longer together. And that ended probably was like in high school, so I was a teenager. And, that kind of made me think, like, even at that age, and I'm like, why do people want to get married? Like, if that's the end result, So I always kind of had that fear of like, you invest so much time in somebody and a relationship or a marriage, and then poof, it's over like that, and then you're like picking up the pieces. So I'm like, I never want to go through that shit. Right. But I had to let go of that. I kind of had to experience some of that, myself in previous relationships, and kind of ask questions like to my mom and my dad, and tell them like, why couldn't you just make this work? Like, you could have made it work. Like, we had family, whatever. But
you asked that question?
Not in those words, but I'm like, come on, man, it couldn't have been that messed up. But I'm a kid, so I don't know everything at that point. But it took me asking them questions and then putting the pieces together and saying, you know what, instead of being mad at them for not making it work, I get it now because I'm an adult. And sometimes stuff just doesn't work out between two people. So I had to let go of those fears, and then just seeing friends and other family around me go through trials and tribulations with relationships, and say, like, that's not gonna be me. Like, I'm not gonna fail at my marriage. Kind of just beat that into my head of like positivity, and say, the people around me, that's what happened to them, but my story is gonna be different.
And how are you gonna make your story different?
It's tough, right? You don't really know until you get put into, tight situations. So I think everyone loves the idea of marriage, right? It's great, right? You have a wedding, you have a big party, and it's like, oh yeah, happily ever after. But it's tough. So I think it's just really like when they say you're up at that altar and they say through sickness and through health and through good and bad, that's exactly what it, that's exactly what it means.
They're very serious words that I don't think most people in our society take serious, especially nowadays, right? Like, most people get married for convenience.
Exactly.
Or get married because they gotten so old that they're like, oh, well, might as well just do it since I just want a baby and I'm old. Yeah. Or they settle because they figured, well, this person has 70% of what I like, so might as well. Yeah. So I think it's bold for you to get to a space where you decide this for you, and decide to make a different story for yourself than you've seen, and then to overcome your experience with your own childhood and your own life. So given that process, like what would you do differently now to teach your kids that are coming up, hopefully soon, about relationships and taking that leap and, you know, changing your lineage.
What advice would I give my future kids? Man, just take your time. There's no rush. Just make sure you good. Make sure that you could take care of yourself, because you never want to jump in a relationship and feel like you're stuck in it because you're depending on someone for your, you know, livelihood or your happiness. And just try to break the mold of these old traditions.
It's time to make our own traditions.
Yeah, you know, these are like old antiquated ideas of what men should be, what women should be. You know, just try to break that mold, because it didn't work for me for a long time.
And it's inhibiting us, right? Like it doesn't even feel natural to do that anymore. Yeah, and like we're forcing it, and for what if it doesn't feel good? Let's do what feels good. And
it doesn't bring you happiness at the end of the day.
Right, which is the whole point of this life.
Yeah. How do you feel about that as a woman?
As a woman, I mean, I've always been non-traditional when it comes to these types of things. I also come from a broken home. My parents were together for 13 years, but my father never married my mom, like officially. Okay. And I admit that I kind of blame her for it, because, and I have a lot of these attributes too, which is one thing I'm trying to unlearn. But this whole idea of like, well, you know what, you don't have to be here for me if you don't want to. I can do this on my own. Or I don't want to get married because I'm going to say that I don't want to get married because I already know that he had a failed marriage. So I don't want to say I want it. So I don't want to put pressure on him. So I'm going to just say I don't want it, although I might really want it. Yeah. And even with my mom's like last words to me, like our last conversation before she passed away, she was like, you know, I'm going to be in heaven watching your weddings. And she's telling me and my sister this while we're like bawling, crying. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to watch your weddings. And me and my sister both looked at each other because both of us are really not traditional people. So we both always said like, we'll just go to the court and save that money and buy a house or something, or go on vacation.
I agree.
That's just that's just
I
us.
Agree.
But so we both look at each other and we're like, Mom, you mean like the kids? And she's like, no, the weddings. And we're both like, damn, now we're gonna have to get married. Like we're gonna have to have a wedding now because it's gonna be have like this guilty conscience, right? But I know that where that was coming from for her to have like that final thought, I know it came from the fact that she always wanted a wedding. Yeah. And so she never got to have that. So because she never got to have that, you know, a lot of us
lived through your kids.
Yeah. And she always used to tell us that, like, you have to get married. Maybe that's probably why I never wanted a wedding, because I've always thought, like, she always so ingrained that in me that I'm like, I don't want that. Yeah. Like, stop telling me to have a wedding. Like, stop. So I think it's just important to focus on what makes you feel good, and never get ahead of telling yourself that you don't want something to make somebody else more comfortable. So I'm gonna make sure that I do that as a woman. Maybe I'll have a party, and maybe I'll have like my own form of a wedding to make it more catered to me. Yeah. Or maybe not. I don't know. But I would say that I don't want to rush into it. I never want to settle for anything less than I deserve, because I think I'm pretty dope, and I deserve a dope person to live this journey with. I want somebody who accepts me for who I am, and makes me a better person. I don't need to be completed. I don't need you to come and make me money. I just need you to help me build this throne that I want to build, whatever that may look like. So that's important to me.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you better have that wedding though.
I mean, I might. I like parties. I throw parties for my. You know how my birthday parties used to be. So I'm a party person. Yeah. So I like celebrating things. So I mean, I've been having weddings according to me for a very long time on my birthday every year for the past 10 years, if you ask me. So I don't have to wait for this big party so I can like have the attention to myself and have this party about. I have parties about me often. So the fact that some people, like, when women are like, oh yeah, I'm just waiting to have this day for me and like to celebrate me, I'm like, you know, you don't have to wait for a wedding. Like, you could do that on your birthday or whenever you graduate from law school or whenever you get a new job. Like, celebrate all your moments in your life so you're not waiting for this one epic day to be completed or to have a party.
Yeah.
You know? And wear a white dress if you want. I like black dresses. But if
I like them too.
But if you want to wear a white dress at your birthday party, do it, girl. Yeah. You know, that's my advice. Then again, I'm not traditional, so. So by the time this airs, you will be engaged.
I will.
And I don't know how P is P like a big wedding person? Like, does she want a huge wedding?
I think she does. Or let me rephrase that. I know she does. But, you know, in practical senses, she's like, I'm fine with just going to City Hall. But, you know, it goes back to the man in me will not. I'm like, nah, I can't do that.
Right.
Like, I have to, even if it's something small, but I'm not just going to go to City Hall and sign some papers and call it a day.
Yeah. You want something big.
Yeah.
Oh, that's dope. So
that
not even like just her. This is something you want as well.
Yeah, I want it. Yeah. You know, I think it'll make me happy, but, you know, to have family there, especially my mom, my dad, my sister, my two nieces, you know, my grandmothers. Yeah, I think it's for me it's important. It doesn't have to be extravagant, but I just want everyone in the same room. You know.
That's dope. I'm excited for that. I can't wait. I already know what I'm gonna wear and everything. So by the time this airs, we'll be engaged. So what would you like her to know when she listens to this episode?
Well, you know, I wasn't out tonight playing hooky on you and nothing like that.
He was just here with me.
Yeah, I was here with Melissa, babe. What I would like her to know is, you know, it took me a long time to get to this place. I mean, I knew I always wanted to marry her since probably last year. But, you know, I wanted us to be set. You know, I wanted us to have our own place. You know, I just wanted her to feel special, like she has somebody that's gonna make sure she's good, you know. And yeah, I love you. That's it.
Well, P, I'm so happy to have you and be officially part of the family. I love her to pieces. Me and her, I definitely have like a little love affair with her as well. So as long as you're always willing to share her with me, I will be there approving.
Yeah, you can take her. Take her anytime you want.
Yeah, she's dope. I love her. Okay, well, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Please stay tuned for the after credits. Remember, that's the best part. And I'll see you next time for another ReLAYshons episode. Later,
y'all.
Your friends saying let them go. Baby, I've been yeah. You have a new love. I'll admit it. Let me be hypothetical.
And here are the after credits from my co-host. We match energy.
So, Melissa gave me an assignment here for these rolling credits that you can't see. So here's a short, I think it's short, summary of how I came to the place to propose to my girlfriend, Priscilla. I had been planning to propose to her for some time already, and I had set money aside to buy a ring. I wanted to do it sooner this past summer, but fortunately God had other plans, and I was hospitalized after having surgery, and it kind of threw a monkey wrench in my plans, so I kind of had to put it on the back burner. And I wanted to propose at the right time with my good health. After getting my health back in order mid-September, I decided to pick up planning again. I contacted my good friend Drew. he referred me to a jeweler that he used when he proposed to his now wife. I met her a few days later, and I knew exactly what kind of ring she wanted and began to design it piece by piece. I didn't want something out of the window. That's just me, not that there's anything wrong with that. First, I selected a stone, then selected the band, and then selected the stones for the band. It felt like a very long process, almost a month, just to get the ring designed and set. So I was going home every day, really nervous, worrying about getting a text and a phone call from the jeweler, and her overhearing it and ruining the surprise or the proposal. In between this whole time, one of her own best friends got engaged, or close friends got engaged, and another close friend of mine also proposed to his girlfriend. So I was super hesitant to propose up until this point because I had literally told no one I had been planning this. I was nervous that she would have felt I was doing this because others around us were doing it also. I reached out to a friend of hers, a close friend, and told her my intentions and asked her for her advice. She said, just follow through your plans and forget what anyone else says. She won't feel that you're doing it because others are doing it, and she would probably be very happy. I took that advice, and then I went about the old-fashioned way. First, I called her dad. Then I called her stepdad and asked them for their blessings to marry their daughter. I told some of her friends as well, and then I told her mom. And then I began to tell my own family, my parents, and my sister. In short, I knew exactly where I wanted to propose to her. I found a photographer and a venue to surprise her after, with friends and family awaiting for us when we arrive. So hopefully when she hears this, she'll understand my recent evasiveness and being secret and texting people in the dark at night during planning all this. I remember picking up the ring one day at lunch during work and just holding the ring in my pocket very tight. It's nerve-wracking walking down the street with something that expensive in your pocket and being fearful you're going to drop it or lose it. It took me a really long time to reach this point where I was ready to ask someone to marry me. I had put aside all my past beliefs that sometime had played mind tricks on me. But because of what I have experienced this year and the passing of my grandfather last Christmas, being in the hospital, I just realized I have a really great partner because she supported me through all of this. And I now am ready and happy to spend the rest of my life with this person. So that is my story.